Interstate 20 in the eastbound lanes around milepost 150. This is a GPS 3 test section. The sign remains, however the delineator posts are gone. We've seen evidence that they've been chewed up by the mowing machine, and there needs to be some touching up on the pavement markings out here. One thing that we've seen, and we found this out before we got to the site in talking with the folks back in Tennille in the district office, was that they were out here last month doing some repairs on the joint sealants out here on I-20 in this area in Treutlen County. No, in Tolliver County, I'm sorry. Yeah, we're in Tolliver County. Getting my T's mixed up. You can see we've got skewed joints. They're in the same staggered joint spacing, the 16, 17, 22, 23 that we saw on the last test section in Interstate 16. And what I'm illustrating here, and I can't get out on the pavement to show it very well, but this is the type of work that they did. Where the joint sealant was intact, they left it there, and then from that point onward they went ahead and peeled it. They cleaned out the old joint sealant and replaced it with some new silicone joint sealant. And they got most of the joints within here. We wanted to go ahead and breeze through this without doing the detailed distress survey, but time, something we really don't have to do this, but we had no choice really if we wanted to capture the quantities and so on at this time. While the new sealant is quite evident as far as the extent of its application in here. This is at the second joint, and you can see where it was done. Most of it you can tell with that kind of a yellowish color there what the approximate limits were, and then they tailed it off or feathered it out for another 6 inches or so. This dominated the type of work they did out here. There was one exception though, and I'm about to show it here. At this location, and we're about station 0 plus 55, somewhere in there. You can see where they repaired a crack in the jointed concrete pavement. I don't recall there being a crack that looked like it was all the way through, but a gouge type mark. But anyway, they injected some epoxy into it, and you can see it there out in the middle of the lane, as well as being able to see how they repaired the joint sealant over all but the outside wheel path, as it turns out. I'm just going to breeze on the video through the rest of it. I went ahead and documented all of this on the distress survey forms and indicated the extent of the replaced sealant. Here's a joint which is rather unusual out here where they did the whole thing. Gosh, this is a beautiful day out here, you know. But you know, it's about, probably 75, 80 degrees out here, clear as a bell. But Mark Gardner would never want to do one of these types of sections. He's too enamored to the snowstorms in New Mexico to want to even care to think about working in this type of weather. He's a man's man. We all know that. Okay, here we are up around Station 2, all kidding aside. And this is pretty typical of what we see throughout this, where it stops and starts and stops and starts again. And generally speaking, on most of the joints out here, the work was done from the outer wheel path over towards the edge, and the length of that varied. And then in the inner wheel path, it went from around 1 foot or 18 inches or so in from the lane line over across most of the wheel path in many cases. Like I say, there are exceptions to that. You know, that's just a generalization. We have some joints, such as this one right here, where nothing was done. The joint sealant was intact, so they left it alone. I'm going to go ahead and finish this thing off because we really need to get to that next section and get up to I-85 and then get someplace where we can stay up near the North Carolina border for tomorrow. Tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock is when we have to be out there to the site to pull the Amos course. Oh shit, I got it. Let's stop and show this. This is a section where they did just the opposite. where the sealant was placed out in the center of the lane, and they left the intact sealant in the wheel pads alone. Now there's a delineator post up there, however that was independent of our test section markings. It just coincidentally happens to be right near the end of the test section. The old delineator with the blue markings that's indicative of the sharp sections was found chewed up by the mower just on the ground on the other side of that. As you can see up here, they need to do some fixing up on their pavement markings, and we talked to them about this also. What we're going to try to do is to get them to get some of the numerals cut out of the tape, feeling that that might be the best thing to do. That would be the most permanent remedy for the problem of numbers fading out and not being able to see them on the passcode tape. Well, I'm going to end the video on the test section 133017 on Interstate 20 eastbound